Welcome back for episode 3 of the Financial Planning and Game Theory podcast. This is your host, Michael Seiss. Today we'll be discussing the Electoral College and your defining decade. Most Americans understand that the presidency is not decided by popular vote. Article 2, Section 1 of the United States Constitution provides for the indirect election of the nation's highest offices by a group of state-appointed electors. This group is known as the Electoral College. The system was designed at a time in American history where political parties really didn't exist, or at least not in the forms that they do today. It can be argued that the system's intent was to allow the House of Representatives to decide the presidency. The many candidates that divided the electoral pie at the time prevented a single candidate from winning the majority of votes, and without that majority vote winner, the House would step in to decide on the rightful president. Things have changed. The House has not decided on a president since 1824. And we're now down to 2 highly polarized political parties, as well as doubts as to whether or not the Electoral College still works. We're not going to focus today on the merits of the system itself. Arguments can be made that the system is imperfect, but the rules are clear. Each campaign understands those rules and has to operate within those confines, and every 4 years, one does it better than the other. And that's why I chose this topic for this episode. The Electoral College is an outstanding example of game theory, practically applied and with huge stakes. The first point to make clear is this: winning the popular vote across the country is not a determinant of who wins the Electoral College, and by extension, the presidency itself. Of the 58 presidential elections in U.S. history, only 5 had a popular vote winner lose the presidency. That being said, 2 of our last 3 presidents were elected without winning the popular vote. In fact, it's actually possible for a candidate to win the presidency with only 22% of the popular vote in a 2-candidate race. The takeaway here is that some votes are quite simply more important than others, and therefore strategy must be employed during the campaigns. The most recent example that I want to elaborate on a bit is the 2016 election. In 2016, 138 million Americans voted. The outcome of that election was Donald Trump losing the popular vote by over 2.5 million votes, but winning enough of the Electoral College votes to win the presidency. It really boiled down to 4 states that decided the 2016 presidency. Let's start with California. Hillary Clinton won the state of California's popular vote by over 4 million votes. She was awarded the 55 electoral votes that state commands as a result. Donald Trump won Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin by less than 1% each. A total of 80,000 votes decided those 3 states and the 46 electoral votes that those states commanded. Having a candidate win those battleground states so narrowly creates the opportunity and the likelihood for the popular vote to go one way and the Electoral College to go the other. A presidential campaign must consider scarcity. Both time and resources are constantly running out during an election cycle. The deadline is clear. Navigating the scarcity of time and resources is a tremendous challenge for any campaign. Strategic risks must be taken throughout, with certain geographies and demographics focused on above others because of the undeniable truth that some votes are more important than others. My approach to investing is very similar. It's important to calculate out and to diversify correctly across different asset classes and sectors, ensuring that my portfolios achieve exposure to the significant areas of the market that offer the greatest return potential and upside over time. The need to own certain sectors of the market at certain times cannot be overstated. The scarcity of time and resources is perhaps the most direct parallel between these two topics, and that's where I want to stop and introduce the defining decade. The 5 years preceding a retirement date and the 5 years that immediately follow are known as the defining decade. The savings decisions, spending patterns, and lifestyle choices that are made during this time frame are considered to be extremely significant and lasting throughout the duration of an individual's retirement. In the 5 years preceding retirement, an individual is enjoying their peak earning years more often than not. The potential to save and defer taxation on elevated income during those 5 years can create lasting benefit. Inversely, the spending decisions that are made immediately after retirement can also have a lasting and very erosive effect. But it's also important to weigh the cost. If retirement can be broken down into 3 phases, the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years, I prefer to see my clients spend those resources when they're able to enjoy them most during the first phase of retirement, their go-go years. The other important concept to introduce here is the idea of sequence of return risk. The best illustration for this is to imagine a recent retiree experience significant market losses in the months that they have just begun taking income off of their nest egg for the very first time. Effectively, they're forced to sell low to finance monthly retirement spending, which can be extremely erosive over time. That said, proper planning can insulate and avoid that risk. There's a price to pay when a retiree or a presidential candidate misappropriate their precious resources. The rules of the game are made clear. Tax law, investment principles, or campaign tactics. It really is all very comparable. Those that operate within those confines in the most optimized, intentional, and thoughtful way have been rewarded historically. I hope that that's true for my clients, and I can't wait to see which candidate in the 2020 presidential election executes the best. Thank you for listening to episode 3. I'll talk to you next time.
The opinions of the hosts and guests of this podcast are for general informational purposes only and are not to be construed as specific advice or recommendations for any individual. You should consult with a qualified financial professional to determine what is appropriate for you. The advisors of CFS Inc. offer securities and advisory services through Cetera Advisors, member FINRA SIPC. Cetera Advisors is under separate ownership from any other named entity.